Do not pay tax. And so there began a riot over about 4 or 5 different areas led by women. And that riot went over a period of time, and a lot of women were arrested, a lot of women were beaten. But eventually, that law had to be withdrawn. And that particular about women's riot begins the major change and the major drive that brought about many of the nationalism that brought about independence in Nigeria. It is important to understand that the effectiveness of a law is measured by its ability to command compliance. Once a law cannot command compliance, that law is said to be a bad law. Any law that has no capacity to draw adherence from the people who follow it, that law is just merely an ink on paper. People who are there. Compliance happens when citizens consider a law to be just, equitable, and that it produces a greater good. People do not oppose laws because laws are difficult. People oppose laws because it produces either hardship or it goes against their conscience. So therefore, it is important to understand that before any law begins to be created, it is important that the creators of that law know that, does this law agree with the values of the people? Does this law agree with everyday natural justice? This is very, very important. People of faith, especially in Islam and in Christianity, are called to submit to rules or to laws that they believe is important to their lives right now. It makes society better, and there's a reward for it in the life hereafter. In my area of specialty as a Christian minister, I want to draw a few examples that I believe will help us to understand this better. There was a time disciples were going through a cornfield, and it was the day of the Sabbath. The Jews do not observe any form of work on the Sabbath day, but they were hungry. And the disciples put their hand into the cornfield and began to pluck the corn and to eat it. And the Pharisees, who were then like legislators, lawmakers, came up and met the disciples and said, and asked their master and said, why do you allow your disciples to walk on a Sabbath? And he made a very important statement to them. He said, was the Sabbath made for man or man for the Sabbath? In other words, is man made for the law, or the law is made for the good of man? People who stand in positions to make laws and make decisions must be very careful to be sure that every law they make, the end of that law must bring good to the people. This is something that faith leaders understand. In the Nigerian legal system, we have the criminal law. We have two parts of the criminal law. There's the criminal law in southern Nigeria and the penal code in northern Nigeria. Why do we have two different criminal legal systems in one country? The major reason is because there are certain things within the culture of the people in the south that are not applicable to the culture of the people in the north. And so in the north, the penal code was instituted in 1959. And the major reason was that it was supposed to reflect the values and the culture of the northern people, who are majorly Muslim in nature. Then we have the common law, which Nigeria took and adopted in 1914. What is the common law? The common law is simply the common law of the British people, their culture, their precedents, the decisions of their judges, which did not follow any specific rule, but it followed the culture of the people at that time. And so therefore there's great compliance, because these laws agree with the culture, with the values, and with the conscience of the people. This is very, very important. I want to bring a very important thing to our attention, and that is that sometimes these laws, when laws are created and they go against the conscience of the people oppose it and they protest against it. But faith leaders also know that there are times that when a law can be protested against just on the basis that it does not agree with their religious understanding. And it reminds me of a saying that Jesus said, "Give unto Caesar what is Caesar's, and to the Lord what is the Lord's." Morality is not always law. As much as it would be good if every law agreed with the morals of the people, sometimes it may not. It's important to understand the importance of faith leaders to ensuring compliance to law. Because people believe in faith leaders. And because people believe in faith leaders, and oftentimes, especially in a society like ours, would rather obey their faith leaders than obey the government, faith leaders must be very careful about the laws that they condemn and the laws they allow. I want to bring something to our attention, and that is that it's important to be careful about the morality of the people, because the morality of the people draws the heart of the people to every law that you make. Recently, in 2026, the National Assembly have just passed a law that says that forgery of qualifications, your educational qualifications, are not to be seen as a crime in the Electoral Act. So I want to ask a question. In a great institution like this, if a student was to come with falsified results, will he be given an admission? If a student was to eventually be found to have submitted false results in order to gain admission, at the point in time that the university recognizes that, will his admission be withdrawn? I leave us with that question. Thank you.